because you don't take the time to watch it if you don't. So, hey, mighty companions, this is Earl Purdy, and I want to welcome you to a course in miracles, a course in right thinking. And we're going to continue and finish up with how do you correct mistakes? How do you correct errors? How do you deal with what you think of as errors that you see other people making and your temptation to feel like you got to fix it or you have to correct it? Do you know that the Course in Miracles, more than anything else, says that its goal is peace of mind, that's fulfillment. So the main thing the Course in Miracles is trying to give to people is peace of mind. Peace of mind. Because it says when you have peace of mind, the Course in Miracles teaches, then you can hear the voice of the Holy Spirit, the voice of your guidance when you have peace. But the Course in Miracles also says that if you're in conflict, you can't hear your guidance. So the next time that you're going through conflict, or you're going through anger, or you're going through guilt, and you're upset, what is it that you need to remember? That you're most likely about to give yourself some wrong advice. When you're angry and you're upset, your perception is distorted. You're not seeing things clearly if you're not seeing things peacefully. So when is it that people usually make their most aggressive decisions? It's when they're upset. That's when they tend to make some decisions. So the Course, and here's a good one. If it looks like there are people making mistakes around you, how do you deal with it in a way that's going to give you the greatest amount of peace? Well, the way that's going to give you the greatest amount of peace is for you to realize that you are not necessarily the one that's supposed to fix them or correct them. So I like to always start out with the guidelines for the Course in Miracles. The guidelines for the Course in Miracles is that this is the only thing you need to remember. The only thing you need to remember is you don't need to believe the ideas from A Course in Miracles. You don't need to believe the ideas. You don't need to accept the ideas. You don't need to accept the ideas. You don't need to welcome the ideas. Some of the ideas you may actively resist, which is, did I say actively? Yeah. Some of the ideas you may actively resist, and some of the ideas you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles you may find hard to believe. Some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles you may find hard to believe. And some of the ideas from A Course in Miracles are going to startle you or may startle you. And one of the most important things in the Course in Miracles is it's saying you're not being asked to judge or analyze the ideas at all. You're not being asked to judge or analyze the ideas at all. Why are you not being asked to judge or analyze the ideas at all? Because it's the use of the ideas that will give the ideas meaning to you. And it's the use of the ideas that will show you that the use of the ideas are true. So what is the ego? The ego is the part of us that will not do anything that we just heard. It's quite simply the part of us that does the opposite of everything we've just heard. One of the most powerful things about the Course that I've noticed in 40 years of working with it is that we believe we are our egos. And that's the problem, is that we are identifying with our egos, and we think we are our egos. And so when it says stuff like, when that person is acting insanely, what I'm asking you to do is to tell them that they're right or perceive the sanity in them. What the Course in Miracles is talking about is all of us have our sane self, and then we have a part of us that says it's insane, that doesn't practice the truth, right? So what I've got to do I've got to believe there's a part of you that is sane, that there is a part of you that is spirit, there is a part of you that does know the truth. Then the next thing I need to do is look for it. Right? Now, the person may be angry, upset, going off, depressed, or whatever they're doing on the outer, but the Course is saying what I want you to do is to remember that even though you're seeing their ego, even though you're seeing the part of them that's afraid, that there's another part of them that's not, that there's another part of them that's sane, which is, let's face it, that's kind of challenging to do when you're seeing what you look at as the mistake that the person is doing. And basically what I've come to find out, the only reason why I'm upset at anybody for any reason is they're not doing what I want them to do and they're not acting like I want them to act. If we would really be honest with each other, that's why it's not so much I'm concerned about that person as somehow or another they're not acting out my script right now. That's really what I'm upset about. So we're gonna start off on paragraph 6 in the section called the correction of error, chapter 9, the acceptance of the atonement, the correction of error. And we're going to be on page 167 in the Foundation for Inner Peace version of the Course, the blue version of the Course. 167, and we're going to start out with paragraph 6. I'm really excited, and my classes are primarily directed toward people who are studying the Course or want to study the Course. Okay, I welcome anyone watching my classes, but I'm a teacher and I've been doing this a long time, and I want to be most helpful to people who are actually studying the Course, because I can save you time. Okay, so the rule number 1 with the Course is read me slowly. Okay, so line number 1 says, you cannot correct yourself. You cannot correct yourself. You cannot correct yourself. So is it possible then for you to correct another? Okay, so the other person, I really can't correct the other person because I'm really not doing the best job in the world of being able to correct myself. I still have my own issues that I'm dealing with that I haven't been able to correct. Have you? What about you all? Everybody got all their issues on every level handled yet? No. Okay. All right. So I can't correct myself. So the Course in Miracles is saying, well, if you can't correct yourself, then you need to really understand and ask yourself, if I can't correct me, can I correct you? Because I want you to take a real life situation where I'm in a situation where this person is, I think it's kind of right and good to point out their error and correct them. And then it said to us in the previous lessons that we've been doing that if I want to give my errors over to God, if I want to give my problems over to Spirit, then I've got to learn how to do the same thing with everybody else's. If I want Spirit to solve my issue, then I have to give you over to Spirit so Spirit can solve your issue. And if I lose, just say so, okay? Then it said to us that also try to remember to ask yourself 4 questions in lesson 71, which is what? What do you want me to do? Where do you want me to go, Spirit? What do you want me to say? Who do you want me to say it to? If you just insisted on wanting to take the hard way, okay? The hard way is your insistence that you need to try to get the person and fix the person and correct the person. But if you can't help it and you're on the edge of your seat, then what you do is you go, all right, what do you want me to say to this person? Do you want me to say anything to them? And what do you want me to say to them? And so if nothing comes to you, what do you think that means? Nothing. So don't sit up there and try to figure out what it is you're supposed to say. If there's something for you to say and Spirit wants you to say it, you will be directed what you should say. See, we're trying to get to that point in our spiritual development that we realize that we can accomplish more through the power of silence than we can accomplish through trying to use our wisdom and our ego to try to solve where everybody else is coming from. But your ego, the part of you that doesn't practice the truth, the Course says it's going to speak first. And not only is your ego going to speak first, it believes it's its job to point out everybody's mistakes and correct it. But the truth is, I need to give them over to God. I need to give them over to the higher power. Why? Because I want the higher power to solve my problem. Whatever I'm going through, I want spirit to solve that. So you have to also want spirit to solve the problems of the people around you. Would that give you more peace? Yeah. So what's the next line? Well, if I'm not supposed to correct the person, what am I supposed to do? Now, the Course in Miracles reads as if it already anticipates what you're going to be asking questions about. So those of you who are actually studying the book, because I don't believe you can really grasp the Course in Miracles if you don't learn how to read the book, you're pretty much guaranteed to forget pretty much everything you heard if you just don't allow yourself to focus in on the material itself. Trust me, after 40 years, that I've studied it 40 years and I have to stay on top of it to remember what it's saying. So it may be my judgment, but I don't really believe if you're not focused in on the material that you're going to do much more than that. So it says what you can do is, I'm not supposed to correct you, but what I can do is see you truly. I can see you correctly because it's possible for me to see myself correctly. What does that mean? It means it's not up to you to change your brother. It's not up to you to change that person who looks like they're making a mistake or they're doing something that you think you need to correct. He says, it's not up to me to change that person. So what is it up to me to do? He said, well, what it's up to you to do is to accept that person as they really are. So that's the answer. Okay, what do you mean? I missed that. First of all, you can't correct yourself, so you're sure not going to be able to correct nobody else. The next thing you need to know is, I might not be able to correct you, but I could see you correctly. And I know I can see you correctly because I'm learning how to see me correctly. So if I can see me correctly and begin to see me as innocent and begin to see me as sane and know some sanity in me and some truth in me and some love in me, then I also am capable of believing the same thing is true about you. Now, it's really important. If I lose you, please stop me so I can clarify, because the same thing you would be wondering about is the same thing that someone would be wondering about who's watching this. So help your brothers and sisters out by don't let me coast along and you know I just lost you and you're not really focusing on what I'm saying. So now check out the next line. It says, your brothers or that person's, I'm going to do it in plain language, that person's errors, that person's mistakes do not come from the truth that is in them. The person's mistakes are coming from the fear and the separation that's in them. It's not coming from my attacking you is not coming from the love that's in me. My attacking you is coming from the fear that's in me. So I need to realize everybody's mistakes is not coming from the truth in them. Everybody's mistreatment of each other is coming from the fear and the thought of separation that's in them. And the truth that's in that person is the same truth that's your truth. So the truth about you is that you are love, you are spirit, you are powerful, you are more than your body, you're an unlimited spiritual being. The same thing's true about me. I'm just acting crazy right now. And I'm acting crazy right now because I'm listening to my ego, which means I'm listening to my programming, my conditioning, the idea that I'm separate from everybody, all my childhood issues and wounds. All that stuff is what's making me respond and react the way that I'm reacting when I'm responding in an upset, angry way. So that's also true of everybody else that I'm seeing as acting in a way that I think I need to fix and I think I need to correct. So everything that I apply to me, if I'm a conscious being and I'm becoming more awake, it's going to be the same thing that I'm going to apply to you. Do I ever act a fool? Do I ever act crazy? Do I ever act out of my anger and insanity? Do I ever act jealous? Do I ever act insecure? Well, where's that coming from? It's coming from my ego. It's coming from my errors of perception. So why, but you know what? When I act like that, I want everybody to forgive me. But when somebody else acts like that, I think they need to be hung from the highest tree. Have you noticed that we do that? Yeah. You know, I love those sometimes. You ever watch the movie where the murderer and the gangster who've been beating up everybody and mistreating everybody, when they seem like they're finna get their punishment, they beg and go, they think that you should have mercy on them. Or they will murder somebody else's child, but then be freaked out if somebody attacks their child, right? In other words, when I do it, I want forgiveness. When you do it, then I want to punish you. And so don't forget our original premise that I said at the very beginning. Basically, whenever you're upset with somebody, you're saying if they were different, I would be happy, right? Yeah. So you are more upset because they're not acting the way you want them to act for your peace than a genuine concern about them. I'm really upset with you. That's why relationships can be so challenging, because it's in special relationships that we have the greatest expectations of how that person needs to be in order for me to feel good. That's what's so deep about it, right? You know, usually when you talk to people and you ask them about what they would like, what kind of person they would like, they will name all these qualities that the other person should have in order to make them happy. But rarely do they say, this is what I want to be like so I can make the other person happy. You almost never hear anybody talk in terms of what they want to do to please the other person. They'll be pointing out the characteristics that they want the other person to have in order for them to have a good time in the relationship. So the Course is telling us that it's only the truth in you that's my truth. And then it says that person's errors cannot change this. And when you're reading the Course, let me give you another tip. If you're looking in the book and you see his errors cannot change this, and then you see a comma, and then you see and, a conjunction, every time that happens, you could just as easily say that means, because the Course speaks in synonyms. So let me give you an example. On page 167, paragraph 6, chapter 9, section 3. Okay, so if you notice, it says his errors cannot change this, and then there's a comma and then an and, then it says can have no effect at all on the truth in you. You could just as easily read that this person's errors cannot change this. What is the this? The truth in them and the truth in you, which means their errors can have no effect at all on the truth in you. So you could read it. His errors cannot change this means that person's mistakes can have no effect at all on the truth in me. So even if the other person is saying something crazy, it still doesn't change anything about me. I don't care how the other person is acting. It doesn't change anything about the truth in you. Whatever that person is saying or doing, it doesn't. I'm still Earl Purdy, as an example. I'm still Earl Purdy no matter what you're doing, right? So no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're saying, no matter what you believe, it's not really changing anything about the truth in me. So as a child of love, as a child of spirit, as me being a spiritual being, a loving being, an innocent being, like the Course say, a sane being, no matter what you're doing, it doesn't have any effect on the truth in me. So what would happen if I knew no matter what you were saying, even what you were saying to me, and I knew that nothing you could call me, nothing you could say about me, no way you could judge me, no way you could criticize me really changes anything about my innocence, really doesn't change anything about the truth in me, well, then you'll find that it would be much more difficult for you to upset me. You can't upset me if I don't believe that anything that you're saying has any validity or any, and so most people, if they're in their ego and they're angry and they're expecting you to change because they're upset, then if you sit up there and you don't allow yourself to be affected by what they're saying, at first they get more angry.
Yeah.
You know why? They get more angry because anger used to work on you. Making you feel guilty used to work on you. If you were really special to me and you are angry at me and you're blaming me, then I would be tempted to give in to the guilt and the attack that you're giving me. Or I would be tempted to think maybe I am the way you're saying that I am. So therefore I need to try to make up for that. But if you know the truth in you, which is number one, I'm not responsible for the way that you're feeling right now. I am not responsible for your anger. I am not responsible for the way that you're feeling right now. I'm not here to act out your script. I wasn't born to act out your script. I wasn't born just to spend my life doing everything you think I should do the way that you want me to do it so that you can feel better about yourself, because you won't take the time to work on your own mind and psychological nature to the point that you love yourself enough that you don't need my validation in order for you to know who you really are and really love yourself. So I'm not expecting you to make me feel good. I'm not expecting you to make me happy, because I'm doing a wonderful job of making my own self happy by doing my own work and getting rid of my own misperceptions about myself. That's the truth. But if you're in a relationship with an asleep person and a person that's unaware, they're going to hold you responsible for everything that they're feeling and going through, because they're looking for you to give them the value that they're not giving to themselves. You still with me, everybody? Okay, so this is the process that's going on in any relationship that you have in your life right now that's causing you any kind of conflict. That's where you are playing the victim. You want to know where you're playing the victim? It's anywhere that you have a relationship with somebody else and the way that they're acting is making you give your peace away. So that person's mistakes can't have an effect on the truth in you. No, nothing that anybody else is saying or doing can affect the truth in you. So what's the steps? I like to go slow. What's the step? First of all, to realize I can't correct myself. So it's not possible for me to correct this other person. But I can see this other person truly, because I could see myself truly if I really wanted to. It's not up to me to change that other person. What it is it's up to me to accept that other person as they really are. That person's mistakes is not coming from the truth in them. That person's anger and upset or whatever the misperception is, it isn't coming from the truth. It's coming from their own errors in perception. It's coming from their own beliefs that are not true. Here's the challenge. If you're the kind of person that's blaming somebody else and you want somebody else to change all the time in order for you to be happy, the law of attraction basically says that's exactly the same kind of person that you're going to attract to you. So you're going to also attract a person to you that's also looking for you to be the one that makes them happy. They're going to also be correcting you just like you're correcting them. They're going to forget who you really are. And when you get upset and unhappy and sad, they are not going to remember that there's a loving being inside of you. And you're not going to remember that about them. Because if you don't know the truth, it's a request for someone that's going to give you an opportunity to practice it. So I tell people, if you want a relationship, there's a line in the Course in Miracles that says in the Manual for Teachers, just say you're ready to learn. The idea that you're ready to learn is a request for a relationship to come to you. So most people, like, they're visualizing the perfect person. The Course in Miracles just makes it simpler than that. Say, I'm ready to learn. And then, but here's the catch. It teaches that the person that's going to be sent to you by Spirit, by God, is going to be a person who's a perfect match for you, in the sense that the way you are is best for them at their level of understanding. So actually, someone coming to you from the divine would be somebody actually who can accept you for who you are, because the way that you are is perfect for the way that they are. But when your wrong mind picks out the person, which is usually going to be the person you're attracted to, that's for your first hint, you're attracted to them. That's usually, I'm telling you, that's usually your hint. It's the wrong person. Is you attracted to them. if you are a person that has a history and a pattern of drawing relationships to you that you have a lot of pain and conflict in, it's your picker, something wrong with your picker and your chooser. But again, that's what most people do until they wake up, so you think it's normal. But what you really attracted is someone who's going to give you the opportunity to practice these principles. This is going to be a person that gives you the opportunity not to try to fix and correct. This is going to be a person that's going to give you the opportunity to see if you can perceive the sanity in them when they're acting insane. This is going to be a person that you're going to have the opportunity to give to the Holy Spirit, just like to solve their problems, like you want the Holy Spirit or the higher power to solve your problems. In other words, what you're going to get is a practice partner. So the person that is a challenge to you is your practice partner. They're the ones that give you endless opportunities to see if you can practice any of the spiritual stuff you're studying. But you could just as easily have attracted a person or let spirit send a person to you that needs you just the way you are. You need them just the way they are. And you learn the same lessons, but you learn lessons in love. That you learn the same lessons, but you learn the lessons through supporting each other, caring about each other, forgiving each other, and having peace with each other. Get the exact same lesson, but you'll get it in a way that's much more peaceful and enjoyable for you. With me? Mm-hmm. All right. Remember that now. You don't have to learn through pain. You do not have to learn through pain. You don't have to act according to no pain, no gain, so I've got to have a lot of pain so I can grow. Or I've got to have a really hard situation for me to make the choice for love and the choice for peace. Do not fall for that. That is not true. You don't have to necessarily learn through pain and conflict and suffering. But I'll tell you this from having done this so long, it's usually the most popular motivator. Yeah. It really is. It's usually the person that's most willing to hear the way that the Course teaches that's different from the way we learned in the past is usually people who are suffering. And they're suffering so much that they want out of the suffering enough to hear another way to look at it. What I'm inviting everybody to do is to get the same blessing, but without the suffering. But to do that, you have to be proactive. And I also would suggest that when things seem to be going the way you want them to go, and you're feeling the most peace, that would be the best time to focus in on the truth the most. But that's when people are tempted to focus in on the truth the least. But really, I call it being on the maintenance program. You know, hey, I'm feeling pretty peaceful and pretty sane right now. So I'm going to make sure I do my lesson and I do my study and everything else because I want to maintain this peace. I don't want to just focus on the truth like it's an aspirin that I take when you have a headache. You know, that's the way it works, right? You got a headache, take an aspirin, headache goes away, you put the aspirin back in the cabinet. Do you know that that's the way that many people approach their spiritual path in the truth? They just rush to the truth when they're upset about something. The minute the situation gets better, they stop doing the truth. Okay, because here's the thing another thing to keep in mind. Just giving tips. Usually, when people are making the biggest progress in getting in touch with their own power, that's when if they're not in a relationship, that's when they usually attract one. And then the relationship becomes a distraction. And they take all their attention off the progress that they've been making. It becomes all about the relationship. You can almost count it. And I've seen that so many times. And usually, and it's not unusual that these classes usually have more feminine energy than masculine energy. And so I especially have seen it with the feminine energy, where the masculine energy comes, and then there's a relationship, and before they know it, it's all about the relationship. So just keep in mind that you can then use the relationship itself as another opportunity to practice. Don't ever forget that. Okay. All right. So let's keep going. So the next line says, to perceive errors or mistakes in anyone. Now this is a big one. So I'm going to take this one slow. He says, to perceive errors In who? Anyone. Does that include everyone?
Yeah.
Okay. And do what? To react to them. Now, when you study the course, fill in the thems. And to react to them, what are the them? Errors. As if the errors were real, what happens? Is to make them real. So if I react to what you're doing as if it's real, I'm making it real, but I'm making it real to me. If I react to what you're doing, I'm making what you're doing real to me. So what happens if I stop reacting to what you're doing? Because nothing that you're doing really has an effect on me. But remember, you are not affected by the errors that somebody else is making in their perception. Then the Course in Miracles is saying to us, if I react to it, I'm treating it like it is real. I'm treating it like you're the one that's causing the way that I'm feeling. That upset I'm feeling right now, you're the one that's making me feel it. So if I react to it as if I'm the victim of it, then I'm making it real to me. So the Course says, what's going to happen? He says, well, if you do that, you won't escape paying the price for it. Well, first of all, if I'm reacting as if what you're saying is real and what you're doing is real, then I'm going to have the negative feeling about it. And so in a sense, it's like I'm being punished for it because I'm the one now that's feeling unhappy and sad and forlorn and everything, right? So I'm not really being punished. You're not really being punished when you don't do what the truth says and you go through pain. He says what's really happening is you're following the wrong guide. And since you're following the wrong guide, you end up going through pain. Because if I follow the wrong guide, I'm going to go through pain. If I put my hand on the hot stove and I'm following the wrong guide to put my hand on the hot stove and I burn my hand, the stove isn't punishing me. The stove isn't punishing me. I'm just following the wrong idea. And so I go through pain. So pain isn't you're not being punished for pain. Pain is your way of letting you know you're deceiving yourself some kind of way and you're not really practicing the truth. That's all pain is. It's a lie detector. It's a deception detector. It's the way you know when you're wrong-minded and when you're not following the guidance of truth. You're in some form of fear or pain. Wow. So check this out. He says, it's not because you're being punished for it, but because you are following what? The wrong guide. And then which means, remember conjunction, which means you will therefore lose your way. What do you mean lose your way? I'm going to lose the way that the truth is trying to teach me. So if you look at your life and you see what areas of your life that you are feeling the greatest amount of fear, conflict, and pain in, would that mean that those are the areas of your life that you're least listening to the truth and you're following the wrong guide?
Yeah.
Question.
Yes.
Right. So doesn't that mean right now you can almost instantly tell what part of your life that you're listening to the wrong voice?
Yes.
And can you notice that there's a part of you that in some of those areas don't want to believe that you're the one that's wrong, that wants to believe it's the other person that's wrong, because it's the part of us that wants to go, yes, but. Y'all familiar with the yes buts? Yeah. Have you had a few yes buts since I've been talking? Right. So let me stop right here for a second. Let's keep focused on the subject matter. Any questions or anything, yes buts, or anything that you want to share or ask me about anything in this section that we've been covering in any situation that you're dealing with. Okay, so later on today, when somebody's not doing something that you want them to do and you're upset again and you're feeling sad again and you're worried again and this person is saying or doing something and there's a part of you that thinks it's kind and right and good to point out their mistake and correct it, then do you know that every time you decide to do that, the Course says you're not listening to your guidance, that you're not listening to the Holy Spirit, so therefore you're making just a bigger mistake as they are because they're not listening to the truth. That's why they're upset or whatever. But you're not listening to the truth either because the truth told you to keep your mouth shut and not try to fix them, but to but to give the situation over to higher power to handle. And if there is something for you to do, then you will be told what that is. And not only will you be told what that is, it also says in other parts of the book, because I bring the whole book into the class, that it would be something that you're willing to do and something that you're able to do, and it will be something you won't feel like is a sacrifice for you to do. Notice I keep repeating that? Because have you noticed that you forget it? Mm-hmm. Right. That's why I repeat things over and over again, because the ego is going to want us to dart all the way around on a bunch of different things so that we don't remember that the next time you're in a special relationship with somebody, and that's anybody that you single out for your attention, by the way, and they're doing something and saying something that doesn't reflect oneness, truth, and love, they're in their ego. So they're listening to their wrong voice. Your job is to give them to spirit, because that's who you want to handle your errors and your issues. So what do? You then try to remember that there is some truth in this person, there is some sanity in this person, there is divinity in this person, there is love in this person. And so even their crazy behavior isn't having any effect on who they really are, and nothing they're doing has any effect on who you really are. And because it doesn't change the truth about who you really are, you'll find it easier to not feel like you need to try to fix and correct them. So what do we do if we still feel that we are compelled to fix them or correct them? What do we do? What are the questions that we ask?
What do you want me to do?
What do you want me to do?
Where do you want me to go?
Where do you want me to go, God?
What do you want me to say?
What do you want me to say?
And who do you want me to say
it to? We know where they want you to go. See, we already know where they want you to go, because they might tell you, go to hell. Right, that's where I want you to go. Yeah, do the course. Go to hell. That's where I want you to go. Okay? Don't lose your sense of humor, because we'll miss this. Because the Course in Miracles says that we are children of God, infinite spiritual beings who are playing a game. And the game we're playing is that we're bodies that can be prey to guilt and fear, that can lose their innocence and die one day. That the Course calls this whole thing a childish game. It's a game that children gods play to create an experience, to pretend that they're something that they're not. And then we forget we're spiritual beings, giving ourselves this human experience of thinking that we're separate in bodies. Follow me? Okay, and then we use our special relationships to reinforce the idea that we're separate and that we're bodies by judging, criticizing, trying to fix each other. Okay? Everybody got it? So it's a game. What happens if you look at it as a game? You won't take it so seriously. What happens if you don't take it so seriously? You have a good time. What happens if you're in a happy mood and in a happy, peaceful place? You create more happiness and peace in your perception and in your experience. Do you think God or the higher power, do you think it made a voice just for you only? Are you that special that the higher power just made guidance only for you? And since God is only guiding me, I can now fix all of you, because the voice for God is only operating in Earl. But what happens if I realize the truth? I realize each and every one of you have divine guidance just like I do, that's totally available to you, because rule number one is none of us can have any qualities, characteristics, or abilities that all of us don't have and all of us share. So if I got guidance that's helping me deal with my issues, then I know you have guidance that would help you deal with your issues. And if I saw it that way, wouldn't that increase my belief in guidance? Yeah. And so what would happen? I would hear my guidance more. What happens if I hear my guidance more? Well, I've already been told that my Creator's will for me is perfect happiness. God's will for you is complete happiness. Your Creator's will for you is complete happiness. And so the more I'm able to hear my guidance, the more I'm able to look at things in a way that's going to give me total and complete satisfaction and peace. So then everybody that looks like they upset me or who are acting out of their ego, I start to be grateful for them because they're giving me an opportunity to practice not correcting them.
Appreciation.
Yeah, so you go, oh my God, it's so many people in this room that I would really like to correct and fix. And this is an opportunity for me to go, I'm going to give you to the Holy Spirit, I'm going to give you to the Holy Spirit, I'm going to give you to the Holy Spirit, I'm going to give you to the higher power, I'm going to give you to the higher power, and I'm going to look for the sanity in you, and I'm going to believe there's some sanity in all of you, because there's sanity in me, and I don't care what you're saying or what you're doing, it's not going to have any effect on who I really am, and it doesn't even have any effect on who you really are. But if there is something for me to say to you, I'm going to be told what that is. And one thing I know I've been told to say to you is that you're innocent, that you deserve love, and you deserve help, and you deserve healing. Guess what? You're going to get to the point one day that you will not allow yourself to enter into a special relationship with anybody, whether it's friends or as lovers, that you wouldn't be able to practice this on. And you wouldn't be able to get with them, and you both set the goal that you're going to use your relationship for your each other's mutual healing, sanity, and love. Because you want to have peace now, and you know the hardest way to have peace with anybody is to join with somebody and you have separate goals. I don't care what their body look like. I always like to say, sane people have bodies too. Because sometimes I put body over mind.
Yeah.
I'd be willing to admit that. Is there anybody else in here would be willing to admit that they've had physical attractions to people, or people who seem to want just the opposite of what you want? Okay? That's one way of knowing that you don't sincerely want it yet. Because if you sincerely wanted something, you would go where you thought it could happen. You wouldn't spend all your time focused on where you know it would never happen if that was what you really wanted. So that person is really making you aware that you don't want what you say you want, or you would go where it was located. So if you find yourself in a relationship and it seems like everything you want to do is not what that other person wants to do, you just will safely assume you don't really want it. Or as you would have attracted someone to you that shares that purpose, or y'all could focus in on the goal together and start working together to get past any blocks that would keep you from having what you want. And it would be fun. You can go to Disney World and still not correct each other. Okay, so because sometimes people think when they get on the spiritual path, they're being asked to sacrifice the things that they would enjoy doing. And it's not. Actually, it's creating a situation where you could have more of the things that you enjoy doing because you're not spending all your time trying to fix and correct each other. Have y'all noticed how common sense the whole thing is? And how you could really do it if you wanted to today? It just calls for you to be quiet and breathe. Because you know when you get ready to do it from the ego, because you'll feel that little twinge of guilt, that little twinge. Y'all know what I'm talking about, that twinge where you find yourself kind of going, okay, you know that's your ego. You know it's your ego that's getting ready to do its thing. So you breathe. You go. And if you can't do it, and you go off, and you lose it, then that's coming from the error in you. But you still are that innocent, beautiful being also, and you forgive yourself, which means that was my call for love. I'm going to see it differently. And then you move on. You go, the only afterward message is, let me try not to do that again. That's it. I wish it was more complicated than that. Oh, I acted a fool today. I'm going to try not to do that again. And not beat yourself up for doing it, because unless you have tolerance for your weakness will start to impact you. See, it's not having tolerance for weakness. It's, from a Course perspective, it says tolerance. I know when I first read that, it says, have tolerance for your weakness. And I said, well, that's just the opposite of what I've been programmed to do. I beat myself up for what I perceive to be my weakness. I try not to, I was taught not to have tolerance for my anger, tolerance for my fear. And the Course says, well, if it's weakness, by definition, it means it doesn't have any power. That's why it's called weakness. So if it's weakness, it can't stop anything unless you make it real, right? Then I make it real, just like it says, and now I'm going through the pain of making my weakness real. Just like it said, and I'm not being punished for my weakness. No, I'm not following the right guide. So I'm judging and condemning myself for my weakness. That's why I'm hurting. Not because I'm being punished because I lost my temper. I'm being punished in my mind because I lost my temper. But really the reason why I'm going through the punishment is I don't have tolerance for me getting angry.
Guilty.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's sort of like stop getting angry about getting angry. Stop feeling depressed about feeling depressed. Yeah, I get angry sometimes. Right, this is my call for love. My anger is coming from me trying to correct people or wanting somebody to be different and act out my script in order for me to be happy. I'm working on myself and I'm coming to realize more and more that my happiness doesn't depend on what anybody else does. So I'm going to have a gradual decrease of my anger, which is always waste coming from my script. And so the next time I get angry, that's giving me an opportunity to realize that I'm still trying to put my scripts on everybody around me. And if they don't do my script, then that's why I'm hurting right now. So people go, well, what about that thing I want to experience that I can't get them to do? Well, as long as you want the content of having an experience of love and peace, then that content can come to you through another form. It can come to you through another person. So then it's reduced to, has it got to be, do I want love or do I want this person? That's what you got to realize. You can have love today, but you might not be able to experience it through the person you've decided. Which is who your ego is going to pick. The part of you that doesn't love you, it's going to pick the person that wasn't going to give it to you. So the universe could give you love today if you let it give it to you through who wants to be a channel for that. That's what makes them the right person. And they go, well, suppose they give it, your spirit is letting me have this love, but it's through a person that looked like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And so I don't like something about their physical reality. Well, the truth is you wouldn't be happy unless that person is someone that's meeting what it is that you feel you really want. So that part is going to take care of itself. It's all part of I'm happy with you means at some level I must be accepting you for who you are and how you are, and it's perfectly okay with me. So it's not any way that something that I give myself happiness with isn't coming in the right form. So you don't have to worry about the form, but you have to get clear. Do you want love or whatever you say you want the content, or do you want some form or some body that your ego has chosen that you've decided is supposed to be the one that makes you happy?
We have to answer.
Right. And how do you know you chose them from your ego? It's because there's constant correcting and fixing and trying to change each other going on. Which is a reflection of what? Me not yet believing that I truly deserve a peaceful, loving relationship.
Yes.
Or, I like to say, I'm afraid of intimacy. If I'm afraid of intimacy, I'm going to have a chain of relationships that don't satisfy me, because if they really were loving and I didn't have any excuse for still holding back, now I'm really having to trust and put myself out there and open up in a way I've never done before. So it'd be a lot easier for me to say, I really want this perfect relationship or friendship with someone, but they just never the right person and they never show up. Well, then you can stay justified in never opening up and being vulnerable and trusting. So that's what I think about all the time when I'm talking to people, and even myself, and they're constantly talking about why their relationships haven't worked. Well, you're afraid of joining. And guess what? It still doesn't change anything about who you really are.
No.
At all. You're still cool. You're still valuable. You're still beautiful. You just have some erroneous thoughts about relationships that you have to learn how to let go of. And hopefully you're with a partner or a friend who doesn't try to fix and correct you and point out your errors. And they're going to be somebody that constantly gives you up to the greater power and then ask if there's anything for them to do, and they'll do it. Or they just might do the thing of, I'll just ask you if I could share something with you. Are you open to me giving you another way of looking at this? And if they say no, then it's less work for you to do. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When you do the Course in Miracles, what I love about the Course in Miracles is that everything that it tells you to do, you can do it today. Everything that your ego tells you to do is going to take time to do. And that's how you can tell the difference. When your ego is telling you to do something, then it's going to be something you think you can only have in the future. When the truth answers you, it always operates in the now and in the present, so it'll always be something that you can do now, especially since the only thing it's asking you to do is change your perception. And perception means interpretation. So the Course says, substitute the word interpretation for perception, and you have the correct perception of perception. So I want another interpretation of you. Well, the interpretation is there's sanity in you, there's divinity in you, there's love in you, and there's God in you. But right now you're making an error, which is another term for the ego. You can substitute ego wherever you see error, and it would give you another meaning. And then it says, your brother's errors are not of him any more than yours are of you. So the other person's mistakes are not coming from the truth in them any more than your mistakes are coming from the truth in you. So if you check it out, notice that it's saying the same thing another way. Accept the other person's errors as real, or you could say, accept the other person's ego as real, which means you attack yourself. Because if I make your ego something that's real and something that can create guilt and fear, then I'm also attacking myself, because now I'm going to start believing that about my own fearful negative thoughts that I have about me. So the truth is, if I want to find my way, he says, do you want to find your way? Yeah. And keep it? Yeah. How do you do it? What's the next part of the sentence? See only truth beside you, because you're walking together. So I'm going to look at each and every one of you as having truth inside of you, and we're all walking together, and all of us have truth. All of us have love. All of us have God. All that's the same thing. Truth, love, God, freedom, peace, that's all the same thing. So the Holy Spirit in you, what does it say? In you forgives all things in you. So the love in you and the love in me is going to forgive everything in me, and it's going to forgive everything in you. It's going to see you correctly, and it's going to see me correctly, and it's going to forgive all things in you and me. So the love in me, the truth in me, is going to forgive everything in you, and it's going to forgive everything in me. Because if you deserve to be forgiven, I deserve to be forgiven. If you deserve to be forgiven, I deserve to be forgiven. If your mistakes haven't changed who you are, then my mistakes haven't changed who I am. So forgiveness, the Course defines forgiveness as corrected perception, as true perception. So forgiveness is not overlooking what you think somebody did to you. Forgiving me is seeing me correctly. And what does seeing me correctly means? The truth is still in me no matter what I'm doing. The truth in you is still in you no matter what you're doing. And my mistakes are coming from my ego, and your mistakes are coming from your ego. And I'm going to give you to the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to give me to the Holy Spirit, and I'm going to ask if there's anything that I need to do in this situation. If there's anything for me to do in this situation, I will be told what to say, and I will be told what to do. How will I know what I'm being told to do by my guidance? I will be willing to do it. I will be able to do it, and I won't look at it as a sacrifice to do it. Notice I'm repeating that over and over again in different ways. But if you walked out of here today with just this much that you were going to use, you could transform your entire upcoming week. And I would go so far as to guarantee you'd have a more peaceful week. So what's the problem? The part of you that thinks you don't deserve to have any friggin' peace, that thinks you deserve to suffer because maybe you grew up and you were criticized and you were judged and you weren't given a lot of love and appreciation in the past and taught that you were truly valuable. So a person who's not truly valuable, they don't deserve somebody who appreciates them and friends that appreciate them and have all the prosperity and abundance that they need, because you don't freaking deserve it. So therefore, what will I do? Well, I'm going to do just the opposite of what I just heard. I'm going to try to fix and correct everybody around me. I'm going to try to give my stuff to God, but then I think I'm supposed to fix everybody else. When they act crazy, I'm going to say that's who they are, is that craziness, and I won't be trying to believe that there's some part of them that really is loving and really is sane. I'm going to do just the opposite. In other words, I'm going to handle you just the way the world taught me. And I'm going to blame you for everything that I'm going through. But if you do that, it still hasn't affected the truth in you. You're still innocent. You're still valuable. You're still a treasure. You're still spirit. Who you really are is totally unaffected by your insanity or anything you've ever done to anybody. Whew.
Thank God.
Whew. Yeah, but some people would rather other people be punished so much that they'll keep them. They won't even let the healing happen for themselves, because if that means my uncle is going to be okay, who I'm mad at, that everything that who healed is really good, then I don't want to accept his truth. And when you do that, aren't you excluding yourself? See, that's what people don't realize. Your uncle is not being affected by your feeling toward him at all. But you're the one that's not practicing the truth on yourself. So you're the one that's going to continue to feel like you're not worthy of love. And so you'll attract somebody that reflects it back to you. And you probably have a tremendous physical attraction. I promise you. Because have you noticed that the people that you've had the most passion for in relationships were also the ones that you went through the most conflicts with? One minute, just all over each other, you love each other. The next minute, you're mad about one thing or another and disappointed. Then you turned on again. Then you're disappointed again. And then you're going right good again. Now you go, well, that's what happens when you've forgotten the truth. There's no consistency in the love. But did that affect?
Makeup sex.
Oh, don't even mention makeup sex. That's what it's all about. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the people that are the most peaceful and the ones who would give you the greatest amount of joy and peace are not the ones you feel passionate about, because they're not giving you the mandatory conflict to get the conflict going. You know what I'm saying? It's really, there's really not that much difference in our feelings. We just name the same feeling different things. And you'll realize that at some point on the path, is that you really basically having love or fear, and you're just calling it something else depending on the situation that you're in. And the Court says what we call love is just a special form of fear. Yeah. I love that. He calls it a fear you like. I went, oh man, that's really deep. That's really deep. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop right here, because I promised myself that I wasn't going to rush this. Because if you just use and I just use what we've heard so far, it would change everything. Was anything you heard today helpful?
Yes.
Something you really feel like you can walk away with? All right. So as much as you possibly can, as often as you can, and I'm not saying this as a script for you to act out for me, try to bring enthusiasm into the truth that you're realizing. Enthusiasm creates. Enthusiasm creates. In other words, try to allow yourself to be just as enthusiastic about the truth as you are about the other things in your life that you get upset about. Because all we heard today was you are innocent no matter what you do. You love no matter what you do. There's sanity inside you no matter what you do. And there's nothing you can do to change that and the love that you're going to receive and the guidance that you're going to receive. That's good news. Also, you're going to find this too. Trust me on this. You're going to start to have the phenomena of watching things be healed and relationships being healed faster by your silence than it ever corrected itself when you were trying to fix it yourself. Yeah. It's going to blow your mind. That part of you that told you you needed to step in to make sure it was handled, because every time you keep silent, but you're doing it from the perspective of you giving it up to spirit. That's why you're not just silent because you're ignorant. You're being silent because you are now surrendering it. And then you start to see your perception will change, or the situation will change, or both will happen. And you go, wow, I've been trying to settle this with this person for years. And all of a sudden, I'm noticing that a healing is happening more than I ever expected in this situation. Yeah, you know why? Because you're finally doing what you're being guided to do. All right. Now, let me take care of a couple of things here. I'm going to do the love offering. You're innocent. I'm a full-time teacher of the course. I love and appreciate you, and you loved and you appreciate it, regardless of whether you share or feel led to share financially or not. I want to be really clear with all of you about that. I'm sustained by the love of God, and I'm grateful to those of you who do share with me. And if you want to use Venmo or the Cash App or PayPal or Zelle, you just need my email address, and that's Earl Purdy at earlpurdy.com. And like I said, I really appreciate that. Earl Purdy, earlpurdy.com. I'm available for clarity sessions and astrology and numerology sessions, which are just another way the Spirit communicates to us. And I've done that for 50 years. And I wouldn't be doing something that long that had no validity or I had never seen work for people. So please give me credit for having that much intelligence that I wouldn't be doing something that I haven't seen any benefit to for 50 years. Okay? Okay? Spirit is going to try to reach you every way possible, in any way that you're open. That's what's so cool. So be glad that everybody's on their own path. Because by everybody being on their own individual path, then it gets us to the same place faster. But trying to convert anybody over to any particular path is impossible, number one, but it would take a ridiculous amount of time if you could do it. Yeah. So I'm glad when people are into whatever they're into, but I want to be especially helpful to people who are like me in the Course in Miracles tends to be the path. Because I know that you're entering a reality where you will be letting yourself be taken care of. And that's cool. Yes. That's cool. I say that's cool. So I have a ton of classes on YouTube. So just go to Earl Purdy on YouTube and you'll see hundreds of classes, not just a Course in Miracles, but I also have a ton of classes on some material called The Way of Mastery and The Course of Love. There's a series of videos on YouTube on special relationships where me and another Course in Miracles teacher named Anna Kajawa, we did these together, going through every aspect of the course that deals with relationships. That's online. So I want to be truly helpful, and I put as much stuff online as I can that people can access to help them remember. And I guarantee if you come to me and you want to do a session with me, let me give you a really wonderful thought. There's nothing original about your problem. There's nothing original about your problem. Everything you would bring to me is a problem that's already been solved. There's nothing you can come up with that you're not that special. I'm not that special. That we could come up with some issue that there's no way that the infinite intelligence of the universe, or what we call God, could not solve. We're not that special. Your problem isn't that special. It's just maybe you're unaware of the answer and the way to look at it, to tune into it. So if you know there's an answer and you choose not to avail yourself of it, would that mean that you still want to keep going through whatever you're going through? That's your issue? Yeah. Well, why would a person do that? Why would a person be able to get an issue resolved but they don't do anything to resolve it? It's called there's a payoff. There's a payoff you're getting out of this issue that you're dealing with over and over again. There's some part of you that believes that issue or pattern or conditioning is a benefit to you. It's giving you some kind of payoff. Then people go, well, what's the payoff? You know, it doesn't really matter what the payoff is. It doesn't matter what the form of the payoff is. What's important is to remind yourself you're getting a payoff. And then what do? You focus in on what would be the benefit of you letting yourself receive the answer. Because the attraction of what's beyond the obstacle, the Course in Miracles teaches in chapter 19 that the attraction beyond the obstacle will pull you past the obstacle. If I want to have peace in my relationship with you, and I really want to join with you, and I really want us to have a loving relationship with you, that goal, that purpose, which should pull me past any disagreements and misperceptions that we are having with each other. Our desire to join has to be stronger than our desire to separate. If your desire to separate is strong and the strongest, then any obstacle that comes up will be enough to end the relationship. So that's how, so what do I suggest if you have, and I bring up relationships so much because the Course in Miracles, the whole Course in Miracles is about how to have peaceful, loving relationships. It's the spiritual path for people who want to use relationships. That's what the Course in Miracles is. It's the path of relationship. So, number one, when you have a disagreement in a relationship with another person, whether it's a close friend or a lover, the first question you should ask is this. Do you want to join or do you want to separate? What did I say you ask?
Do you want to join or do you want to separate?
That's the first thing to get clear. Why? Because if you are trying to join with somebody that wants to separate, there will not be a solution that would be acceptable to that person. Anything y'all try to come up with won't work. You won't agree. You won't go because you don't want to be together anymore. So, okay? But if it's two people who want to join, I guarantee you they will. So save yourself some time. Just ask. I know that's a, what? Yeah, say, look them in the face and go, do you want to join? Do you want to heal? Do you want to be in a relationship with me? Do you want peace? Or do you want to separate? Because the Course in Miracles teaches that most relationships are temporary. That it's actually rare to have a lifelong relationship with anybody. So it's almost like an unrealistic goal to think you're going to have a lifelong relationship with everybody you meet. The Course is saying, it says it in the Manual for Teachers, that you come together, you have a very intense, what it calls teaching, learning relationship, and then most of you appear to separate. That's actually normal. That's much more normal than having a lifelong relationship. He says, but eventually the relationship will heal. It will become holy. It will become loving. So some people are beating themselves up, condemning themselves because they seem to have relationships that don't last. So they don't realize you're really having a normal experience of relationships, and all you have to do is talk to everybody you know, and you'll see it is. That most people have had more relationships that have been temporary than relationships that have been permanent. So guess what? That must be more normal. It says you can have a lifelong relationship and be mad at each other your whole lifetime. So just because, but the course says, but the person you have a lifelong relationship with is someone who's giving you unlimited opportunities to learn. And some people get married, so they'll make sure they got that person there for a while to have those unlimited opportunities to learn. It's almost like you set up a ritual together that's a commitment to learn, which is great. But it's really of the heart and the mind. Woo! Earl, did you hear anything you said today, boy? Are you going to use it? Are you going to practice it as much as you possibly can? Yes, Holy Spirit. I know this class was for today. It's for me. So, mighty companions, let's see. Did that cover everything? Yeah. If you want to come in person here in Denver, Colorado, 1 p.m. Mountain Time every Sunday at 1555 Race Street, 1555 Race Street in Denver, Colorado, 80206. I am so grateful for you all. Thank you for coming in person. Thank you, people online, you online that are watching. There seem to be more and more that are doing that. And I want you to know I appreciate you so much for giving me this opportunity to remember the truth with you. And don't forget you're juicy and cute. Sometimes we forget that. Sometimes we forget that. Oh, Lordy B, I'm so glad I'm not this body. I love y'all.